Hello and welcome to today's video. I hope you all are healthy. In today's video, I am going to demonstrate the step-by-step process to automate operating system patches, security patches, application patches in SSM managed instances. And we can use AWS Systems Manager, Patch Manager for the entire process. As you know, AWS Systems Manager is a secure end-to-end management solution for AWS Cloud and for hybrid cloud environments. Patching is one of the biggest burden while working with virtual machines or EC2 in an IT infrastructure. I believe in your organization also you have an use case or desire to set up automated uniform patching process across the regions. It could be dev, prod, UAT. Across the region you want a uniform patching process. If you want to understand how to configure automated patching for your EC2 instance or for VMs in on-premise, then you are at the right place. This is a lab session. Please watch the video without skipping any part. If you follow today's session without skipping any content, you should be able to successfully configure automated operating system patches or security patches for your personal learning or for your organizational use cases. Before I start, I would like to request you, if you are new to our channel or haven't subscribed yet, then please subscribe to our channel and please click on the bell icon to get notification for any new topics. Our goal is to help everyone with premium content without any paid subscription, and your support will motivate us. Now let's review some high-level use cases for AWS Systems Manager, Patch Manager. To start with, you might have multiple environments with 10 plus EC2 instances. Maybe you are managing dev server, production server, UAT servers, and you have multiple EC2 instances. Manual patching is not a scalable solution. Moreover, if you are not keeping your servers updated, you are inviting other vulnerabilities. That is why it's most important to keep our servers updated with the latest operating system and security patches. Next, you may be working in hybrid cloud environment. Now, as you know, hybrid cloud environment means you have some workload in AWS cloud as well as you have some workload in your on-premise data centers, or even you are working with other cloud providers. Also, you might have edge devices. Like you might have IoT devices. It could be AWS IoT devices. It could be other than AWS IoT devices. If you have any use case using SSM Patch Manager, you can apply operating system and security patches seamlessly and from one centralized location. Next, if you have diversified version of operating system, maybe you are running some workload in Windows, maybe some in Linux, Unix, and even in Windows you have multiple versions. Then maintaining and managing the patches is not an easy task. And we will actually see that in today's demo. Using Patch Manager, you will be able to manage and maintain a uniform centralized patching process across the diversified version of operating systems. You might have a requirement of uniform patching process, what I was saying every time. Maybe you are working in hybrid environment and you want all the servers in on-premise as well as in AWS cloud should be patched with your company recommended patching process. Then this is a perfect use case for SSM Patch Manager. Now let's try to understand what are the supported environments that SSM Patch Manager currently supports. To start with, if you have EC2 instances in AWS cloud, then obviously SSM Patch Manager is a better fit for you. Next, if you have on-premise servers, and again, you have to remember these on-premise servers or servers in AWS cloud, it must be SSM managed. Now, if you do not know what is SSM managed server or how to configure SSM managed servers, then I have created separate videos for on-premise servers as well as for EC2 instances. I am going to give the video URL in the description. If you have an organizational use case or if you want for personal learning, then you can refer that video. Next, edge devices. Now edge devices includes AWS IoT device, also non-AWS IoT devices. And last but not least, VM in other cloud provider. As I was mentioning, if you have an use case where you are working with multiple cloud provider, then you can manage and apply patches to those virtual machines in other cloud provider using AWS SSM patch manager. One point you have to remember, Mac OS is not supported for systems manager hybrid environment. If you have a Mac OS in your on-premise data center, then you won't be able to manage Mac OS in on-premise data center using AWS Systems Manager. Next, we'll quickly review the SSM prerequisites. I have a separate video where I have discussed the prerequisites in greater depth. If you are interested, I can provide the video URL and you can review those prerequisites also. First, an obvious prerequisite is you need AWS Systems Manager agent in EC2 and in virtual machines. Recently, there are many AWS AMIs which comes with pre-installed SSM agent. If you are using any of the latest AMI, in most of the cases, you should have SSM agent pre-installed. If you have an use case where you have to install SSM agent into EC2 instance or maybe in virtual machines, you can refer the videos I have talked previously where I have given step-by-step process to install SSM agent in both EC2 as well as in virtual machines in on-premise data center or in other cloud provider. Next, you need IAM role that has to be assigned into EC2 instance profile or a non-admin IAM user, that is for your on-premise virtual machines or even virtual machines in other cloud provider. As AWS maintains zero trust policy, unless until you explicitly assign any permissions, no services will be able to communicate with each other. And last but not least, EC2 security groups would allow outbound connection to SSM. As you know, security group is an instance level firewall unless and until you have specific rules which allow the outbound connection for your SSM agent in the EC2 instance to communicate with AWS Systems Manager service. The SSM agent in the EC2 instance will not be able to communicate and the node will not be appear as a managed node. This is another one important prerequisite. Although we'll see the entire process in demo and in AWS Management Console, but I would like to give you an overview of what you are going to do today and to describe the automated patch management process before we go to AWS Management Console. The only purpose for this slide is to bring everyone in common place. To start with, first we have to create a patch baseline. Now patch baseline is based on your operating system, based on your what type of patches you want. Is that an operating system patches? Is that a security patches? Or is that an application patch? Obviously, do you want to apply in a development region, in a production region? Based on that, you will be able to configure the patch baseline. Once you have the patch baseline configured, next is you have to identify the targets. Maybe you want to apply the patches as soon as that is available for development region. But for production, you might have to test that in development and test region. Then only you are going to apply the patch into production region. That is why you have to create separate target groups for those patches. You might be able to apply the same patches into multiple target groups, but please remember that we should create different patch groups, and based on the instances in the patch group, you can automate the process. The third step is maintenance window. Now, what is maintenance window? Maybe for development region, you can apply the patches as soon as that is available. If the development region will go down, that may hamper your productivity, but it's not going to affect the business users or your customers. But for production, you might want to apply the patches in a time where the application has the least amount of traffic. That is why we will create maintenance window and we will apply the patches based on the required time or based on the designated time when the production application can go down and it will affect less number of production users or end users. And last but not least, we have to create the task. Now the task would be, you can create, do you want to scan, do you want to apply, or do you want to do both together? So based on that, we can create the task, we can select the maintenance window, we can select the patch baseline, and we can select the patch group. Based on your task definition, based on the maintenance window schedule, AWS Run Patch Baseline will invoke the AWS Systems Manager. Systems Manager will trigger the process and it will apply the patches to the required target. Now let's go to AWS Management Console and let's set up everything one by one, and let's automatically apply the patches in our EC2 instances. Please join me in the AWS Management Console. I am at console home. Now in this video, we are going to use Systems Manager Patch Manager to automate the process of patching an EC2 instance. I'll access EC2 from the recently visited tab. If you do not have EC2, you can go to search option and you can type. And by that way also you can access EC2. So I'll go to EC2. Now I have total 4 instances. Out of that 4 instances, all are Linux instances. Now if I'll select the first one, go to tag, I have added tag like environment as dev. If I'll select the second one and tags, again environment as dev. Now if I'll go to the third one and tags environment as prod, and similarly fourth one environment as prod. I have created this configuration just to demonstrate the difference between patching in dev and the production. Whenever a new patch is available, it could be operating system patching, it could be security patching. Normally in dev region or in lower region, we want to deploy as early as possible. We can test there, but for production, first we'll test in dev or maybe in UAT region. If everything works fine, then only we deploy into production. That is the reason I would like to show the tag based approach, because today if you have two EC2 instances or two virtual servers, tomorrow if you launch new servers or new EC2 instance, you really do not have to edit any configuration. The patch manager will automatically patch the new instances. That is why we are going to use the tag based approach for today's demo. Now let's quickly jump to Systems Manager. I'll type SSM. I'll open in a new tab. Now from the left hand side, if you come to Node Management, there is the option Patch Manager. I'll go to Patch Manager. This is the Patch Manager dashboard. Either if you have already a patch, if you want to manually patch now, you can create patch now, or else we'll go to View Predefined Patch Baseline. From left hand side, we'll create the patch baseline. That is the first step, as I mentioned. Let me go back to EC2 instances and let me show you one attribute of the EC2 instance. If I go to EC2 and if I go to the platform details, this is Linux and Unix. Now similarly, I have the other also, Linux Unix, third server Linux Unix, and the fourth server also Linux and Unix. So all my 4 EC2 instances are Linux server, but for this demo I am going to create both a Windows patch baseline and a Linux patch baseline, and I might apply only the Linux patch baseline for my instances. Let's go to Patch Manager and let's create the Windows patch baseline first. Now I have given the name as Windows patch baseline, and you can even further classify that one. You might create a separate patch baseline for operating system. You can create a separate patch baseline for the applications in the Windows. So let's create as a operating system, and I'll use the terminology as OS. Now in the description I will use operating system patch baseline. Now from the operating system drop down, as I mentioned, I want to create for Windows. Now if you have any other operating system, you can select the proper operating system. Let me go ahead with the Windows. Now do you want to set this one as a default patch baseline? If you already have a default patch baseline, then you might not set that one as a default. But if you do not have, you can go ahead and set. For this demo, I already have a defined patch baseline or the default baseline. That is what I am not going to tick this option. Now under the approval rule for the operating system, now you can go to the product and there you can give all the Windows versions. Now you can select multiple versions at go. For this demonstration, maybe I want to go with Windows Server 2012. Now if you have multiple Windows versions, you can create different patch baseline for each operating system separately. If you have multiple operating system and if you are trying to patch them together with the same baseline, it can create problem. For production, it is not recommended. Now severity, you can see all the severities are there: critical, important, moderate, low, and unspecified. Maybe for development region, you can go and select critical, important, and moderate. So whenever there is any baseline or whenever there is any patch with this severity, this patch baseline will be applied. Now let's use one more thing, OS, and let's use the terminology as dev. Maybe we can create a separate patch baseline for production, and in that case maybe we will apply critical as early as possible and important and moderate maybe after some days. Now under classifications, you can select critical updates. Maybe I'll select security updates, I'll select service packs, I'll select any upgrades, and also I'll select driver related and also feature packs. Now based on your requirement, you can select whatever the classifications you want. And as you understand, critical updates, drivers, feature packs, these are all necessary for any development and production servers. Under auto approval rule, you can set the rule whenever the upgrade or whenever there is an update in a software, do you want to install as early as possible or do you want to wait? Maybe whenever Microsoft will release a new patch or whenever Microsoft will bring a new version, do you want to upgrade or not? If you select 0, that means as soon as Microsoft will bring any critical updates related to operating system, security update for Windows Server 2002, it will be updated. Maybe I want to wait for 2 days. Or else there is another one option, you can give a specific date also. And that is applicable only when you know that the patch is coming on so and so date. If you have any criteria, in that case, you can specify the date, or else let's go ahead with the arbitrary number. Whenever there will be a new patch, we can apply on the second day. Now compliance reporting, you can report that patch baseline. It could be critical, high, medium. Since we have selected critical, important, and moderate, maybe I'll go with the high. That is the compliance requirement. Whenever that patch will be applied or if it's failed, it will report as a high event. Now this is for the operating system rules. In that operating system, if you have other Windows application like SQL Server, like Teams, or maybe Office, in that case, you can also add the rule for the application. Now, if you want to add those rules also, you can click that add rule. And then from the application family, maybe I'll select SQL Server, Microsoft SQL Server. And I can select Microsoft Office. So I have selected Office and SQL Server. Again, severity, maybe I can go with critical and important. From the product option, here you can select all those versions. Now, let's say for SQL Server, I have SQL Server 2019. And for Office, I have Office 2016. Again, this is for demo. I do not have a actual Windows application running in my infrastructure. That is why I am selecting whatever I think that is better. You can select whatever the product is applicable for you. I'll remove the all option. Under classification, again you can select critical update, maybe drivers, feature pack, security update, service pack, and any upgrades. The first rule, this is for operating system. Second rule for application. If you want, you can segregate into two different patch baseline. You can create, maybe this is for the operating system, and you can create the second one for the application. Since I have used Windows patch baseline operating system dev, and for that demonstration, I have applied all those applications. But as I mentioned, I have created this name as operating system baseline. Maybe I'll go ahead and remove that rule. But I think you understand the concept. Whenever you want to include the application, you can create a separate patch baseline for the applications, or even you can create with the operating system. Under patch exceptions, if you know there are some patches that is faulty or maybe that patch is not fixing the issue, in that case you can create an exception, and if you put those patch names, then those patches will not be applied and it will be excluded. Now I do not have any information related that is why I'm not going to add anything. Now you can add tags for that baseline. For this demo, I'm not going to add any tag and I'm going to create the patch baseline. Now my patch baseline has been created. Now if I'll go to the patch baseline, and let's go to page number 2, Windows patch baseline OS dev. So this is the patch baseline that I have created, and you can see this is not the default patch baseline because I have other predefined patch baseline OS application. That is why I haven't used that one as a default baseline. But if you want, you can assign as a default baseline also. Now we have created the baseline. Now let's move to the next step where we'll create a patch group. Now this is the AWS documentation. If you see, now you can use a patch group to associate managed node with specific patch baseline in a patch manager. In our example, we have created this operating system baseline, and now we can create a group of EC2 instances where I can apply those patches. A managed node can only be in one patch group. This is the important point. You have to understand, when you are creating a patch group, a managed node you can include only in one patch group. Let's say in my example, I have 4 EC2 instances. Now the first 2 I have for development region, and third and fourth for the production regions. Now if I'll create 2 different patch baseline, one for development and one for production, then all the 4 instances are covered. If I want to create a separate patch baseline, and if you want to create a separate patch group, in that case I won't be able to use any one of the instance in a 2 different group. That is what the AWS documentation is saying, that a managed node can only be in one patch group. And let's now see that in action. So I'll go to patch group. I do not have a patch group now. I'll create a patch group. To create the patch group, we'll use tag based approach. Maybe I'll select the 4th EC2 instance. This is a production one, and I am going to add a new tag. Here I am going to call patch group as critical. I'll copy this name and I'll apply the same tag into the 3rd instance also. Since server number 3, maybe I'll rename at web server 03 and web server 04. Since web server 3 and 4, these are production instances, that is why I have assigned the patch group as critical. Now you can create a separate patch group for the development, and you can give maybe a high or maybe a medium severity there. Now let's go back to AWS Systems Manager, Patch Manager, and let's assign these 2 EC2 instances as part of the patch baseline. Now I'll go to the Systems Manager under Patch Baseline. I'll first go to the patch baseline I have created. I'll select the patch baseline. From action, I'll select modify patch group, and then I'll add a patch group here. Maybe I'll use the name as critical. I'll click add. Now it is in the critical patch group, and I'll close that. So now what we have done, we have used the tag based approach, and we have created the patch group where we are going to apply this patch. Now the next step is maintenance window. We have created the patch baseline, we have created the patch group. Now we have to apply that patch. To create a maintenance window, from the left hand side, if you come to change management, then we have the maintenance window. I'll select the maintenance window. Now I'll create a new maintenance window. Maybe the name I'll use production maintenance window. I'll use the same text for the description. In the scheduler part, either you can go and you can provide a cron schedule. Maybe you can go with window start every 30 minutes, hourly, daily. You can do with that, or you can go with a rate based also. Maybe every after 7 days. You can see every after 7 days, or maybe after every 30 days. And you can specify the value maybe at 12 AM or 12 hours. So like that way you can specify. Or you can go cron and rate both together. So there are 3 options. Either you can go with the cron based, you can go with the rate based, or you can go with the combined. Let's go with the cron based. Duration, maybe the maintenance duration I will select only 2 hours. I do not want to give 24 hours maintenance window. So now whenever you are giving the maintenance window duration, any patching, it has to be applied within that duration. If somehow AWS will not be able to apply the patch within the duration, it will not be happening on that day. Maybe it will be happening on the next day. Now there is a stop initiating task. Maybe you have a nightly batch job that is running, and the nightly batch job triggers maybe 1 a.m. every night, and you are going to patch those instances maybe at 11 p.m. Now, obviously, your instance must be ready, restarted before 1 p.m. the batch will start, or else the batch will fail. That is why you can put a initiating task hour. Maybe I can use 30 minutes, or maybe I can use 1 hour before the window close. My default timing is 11 p.m. If it is not able to start within 12 a.m., then the patch will not be triggered, or if it's not patched successfully, then it will be stopped. Now Windows start date, when you want to start that patch, maybe I'll use today, and the timeline I'll give, let's say 11. First let's select the GMT plus 5:30, that is the EST hours, and maybe I'll use 23. Okay. Now window end date, that is optional, you do not have to give. For the scheduled time zone, I'll use the Eastern time zone, and I will use New York. Let's type New York. This is the UST hours, and now create the maintenance window. Again, this is for the demo, that is why I have used some arbitrary time, but if you want, you can select your own time. I have selected default. If you want to go with the hourly approach, you can select every 12 hours, every 8 hours, as you want, and what is applicable for your use case. Now create the maintenance window. It is saying Windows start date cannot be in the past. Okay, so let's modify it to maybe in a future date. Let's start from the 28th, and let's create the maintenance window. Now I have created the maintenance window, and the final step would be we have to apply those patching. To apply the patches, from the left hand side node manager, I'll come to patch manager, and I'll go configure patching. Under configure patching, what are the instances you want to select? There are multiple options you can select. Either you can use instance with the tag. Now since we have used environment tag, I can go environment as prod, and if I'll add that, then in this case it will select only the web server 3 and web server 4, because it has the environment tab as production. I think I have used the correct spelling. Now I have added the environment as prod tag. Now if I'll go to the EC2 instances, the web server 3 and web server 4, that will be under this tag. This is one approach. Other approach, you can select the patch group, and we have created the patch group critical. If you select the critical patch group, then all the instance which is part of the critical patch group, that will be selected. There is a third option, and you can select the instance manually. Now if you will select the instance manually, all the EC2 instances will be populated here, and you can manually select the instance you want. Now one point, if you remember, to cover this demo, I have created the patch baseline for a Windows instance, or I have created a Windows patch baseline. I have created a production patch group, and I am going to apply that patch into a Linux. This combination is not going to work in actual environment or even in my AWS region. I have selected this combination just to demonstrate all possible use cases. Since all the EC2 instances are Linux based platform, that is why my Windows patch baseline is not going to work. And let me go to the patch baseline, and let's create a patch baseline for Linux now. I'll go to patch manager. Now view predefined patch baseline. From here, let's create a patch baseline, and this time let's create for Linux production. I'll use the same name as description. This time, instead of operating system Windows, I'll select Amazon Linux 2. Product, I'll select Amazon Linux 2 2.2 all. Severity, I'll select critical, important and medium patches. Under classification, I'll select all the security, recommended, and enhancement and bug fix. Now approver, maybe I'll apply after 2 days whenever the patch will be applicable. Again, like the Windows, you can add the patch exceptions from here. I do not have that information. That is why I am going to create the patch baseline. Now I'll go to my second tab, the newly created patch baseline Linux production. And now let's go ahead and assign that patch baseline. I'll go and I'll modify the patch group and I'll use critical. The same step, whatever we have completed for the Windows patch baseline. I'll close this. Now I have created the Linux patch baseline and I have assigned that to a patch group. Next step would be, now I have to apply the patch. So I'll go to configure patching, and again I am in the same screen. I can either go and select the instance based on the tag, I can select based on the patch group, I can select the instance manually. Now what I am going to do, I am going to select the instance based on the tag. Maybe I'll use environment as prod and I'll add. Now it's up to you how you want to select those instances. The next is scheduling. You can select the existing maintenance window. You can skip the maintenance window and patch now, and you can use or create a new maintenance window. Since we have already created a maintenance window, we are going to select the maintenance window. Now patch operation, either if you want to scan only or scan and install, you can configure both. Maybe I want to scan and install both together. That is why I'll go with the default option, scan and install. But if you want, now you want to only scan, you really do not want to patch. Maybe for the production during the daytime, you will just check what are the patches missing. Then you can only select the scan. Additional setting will be applicable only when you are going with the patch group. Now let's see that. I'll go to patch group and from here I'll select critical. And if I'll go to additional settings, now you can see that we have this patch group. Now this patch group is attached with two patch baseline, one Windows patch baseline and one Linux patch baseline. Let's go to this patch group and let's remove the Windows patch baseline from this group. I'll go to patch manager. I'll go to patch baseline. I'll go to the Windows patch baseline. I'll select action, modify patch group. I'll remove the patch group. I'll close. Now if I'll come back here, I'll refresh this page. I'll use patch group and then I'll select an existing maintenance window, and then I'll go to additional setting and I'll select the critical. One point you have to remember, additional setting is applicable whenever you are selecting a patch group and configure patching. Now this is the patch configurations we have completed, and this patch will be applied on the maintenance window. Now in the compliance reporting, you can see, if you remember when we are creating those patches, we have selected medium as the compliance reporting or high as the compliance reporting. So this is the dashboard. Whenever there will be a patch failure, then this will be reported in the compliance status. Coming to dashboard, now compliance report never reported, that is why all are red. We have configured the automated patch configuration using the maintenance window. Whenever the maintenance window will fall or whenever the maintenance window will come, those production instances will be patched automatically. For this demo and for the testing, now let's apply the patch manually. And for that, I'll click the patch now option. We have the option to either only scan or scan and install. For this demo, let's select scan. You can go patch all instances or patch the target specifically. Maybe I want to go again the same thing, instance with tag. I can go and select environment as dev. I'll copy this tag name. I'll apply the tag name and I'll apply as dev. Now you can choose those instance manually. You can choose a resource group, whatever you want. And then if you want to store that patching log into a S3 bucket, then you can configure that, but I really do not want that. This is for the demo. Maybe for your organization or for your workload, you want to configure that. If you want, you can create a S3 bucket and you can integrate the S3 bucket with that patching. then all your logs will be stored in S3. But now let's patch. And please remember, we are only scanning, we are not installing any patch. So this process, it will only scan and it will say what are the instances where we need the patching. Now let's wait for some times for the operation to be completed. You can see the status is pending. Now it's completed successfully. Let's go to execution ID. These are the two EC2 instances and the status is showing success. Let's go and review the output. So you can see this step name is patch Windows and we are concentrating on the patch Linux because we have the Linux instance. That is why we'll not review this output. This is patch Windows and third one is patch Mac OS. We'll see the output as patch Linux. So it has output and error. We'll first check the error. There is no error and we'll check the output. Now the output, it is saying these are the steps it is performed and this is the output it has generated. Now we'll close this output and we'll check the same thing for the second instance. We'll come to step 2 where we have the patch Linux. We'll check the output and it will give you the total details about what are the patches that is required or the total execution output here. I'll check the error also. Error is saying 0. For this execution, we haven't installed any patches. We only scan the EC2 instances. Now let's go ahead and do the install step. For this, maybe I'll close this execution. I'll go to Systems Manager, Patch Manager. Then I'll go to Patch Baseline. I'll select the patch baseline, what I want to apply. I'll use Linux. Patch now. This time I'll select Scan and Install. When you install a patch, depending on the patch, you may need to restart the instances. You can select any one of the 3 options. First option, reboot if needed. If you select this option, your SSM managed instances will be rebooted after the installation. If any patch does not require a system reboot, for that use case, SSM Patch Manager won't reboot the instance. Second option, do not reboot. As the name suggests, it will only install and will not reboot the servers after installation. And the last option is schedule a reboot time. Maybe if you have a critical workload running and you do not want your servers to go down, for that use case, you can select a schedule reboot time. Under this option, you will specify a time when SSM Patch Manager will automatically reboot your servers. For this demo, I'll select reboot if needed. Now instance to patch, patch all instance or only the target instance. I'll go ahead and again specify the environment as dev. Under additional option, you can use lifecycle hook. Under lifecycle hook, what you can do before installation, you can do something after installation or on exit. Maybe you can do if the patch is not successful, then you have to revert it back. Or maybe before the patch, you can take a backup. So these kind of steps you can perform in lifecycle hook, but I'm not going to do for this demo. And I'm going to add that tag and I'll go ahead and click patch now. Again, let's wait for a couple of minutes for this process to be completed. Now the status changed to pending and it is saying the pending too because we have selected environment tag as dev. For this execution, we are not only scanning, we are actually applying the patch to the instances. Now since we have 2 instances and we are going to apply that patch, I'm expecting a little bit longer turn around for this execution. If you want to review the process, you can click on the execution ID hyperlink. It will take you to the new page. You can monitor the progress. You can see for the first instance, the patching process completed successfully. Now the patching is going on for the second instance. That is why the status is pending. You can monitor here or even you can monitor in the Systems Manager Patch Association Dashboard also or the Patch Execution Summary Dashboard also. Now one success, one pending, that means one instance out of the 2 that is patched successfully. I am going to pause this video here and I'll come back whenever the process will be completed. The patch process completed successfully. It took almost 5 to 7 minutes and now we can see success equal to 2 and the status is success. Reboot if needed, that was the reboot option. Now let's go to execution ID and let's review. Both the nodes status is saying success. Let's go to output. We'll review the output for step 2. And we can see this is the output. Although this comes with all the execution log. If we'll review the error, there is no error. It's saying error 0. Similarly, we'll go and review the output from the other instance. There is no error, and also in the output, all the execution steps, whatever it has done. Let's review the association ID, systems manager. Now this is the association ID. If you see, now execution history, we have done the execution 3 times today. So that is the execution history. Now if you see the targets, tag environment, we have tagged the environment as dev. Now since we have used a tag based approach, tomorrow if you have a new EC2 instance and adding those tags, it will be automatically considered for these executions. Now let's go back to patch manager. In the patch operation history, you can see the scan. We have performed scan 2 times and install 1 times. If you see the compliance report, so 2 instance that is compliant, that is executed, but 2 instance we haven't executed. The production one we haven't executed any patching or any scanning. That is why it is saying non-compliance. Now before we conclude today's video, let's review the patch group. We have created a patch group, that is the critical patch group, and we have assigned that patch baseline. We also have created a maintenance window, and we have scheduled that patch based on the maintenance window. So based on the maintenance window, that will be applied. For this demo, since I cannot wait that long for the maintenance window to be triggered, that is why I have shown the process how you can manually patch that. But once you complete all the 4 steps, that means the first step is define patch baseline, then you can create a patch group, or you can select using a tag based approach, and then after that you can create a maintenance window, and then you can scan and apply patch. For scanning and applying patches, we saw 2 methods. Either you can apply the patch as early as possible or now. That is recommended for instances in the development region, but for a production region, obviously you want to schedule a maintenance window and the patch should be applied on the maintenance window. Now we came to a conclusion about today's topic. I hope I was able to clarify all your doubts. If you have any question regarding today's topic, please post your question as comment to this video. We will answer at earliest. Before we conclude today, I would like to request you please subscribe our channel and please click on the bell icon to get notification for new topics. If you want me to cover any topics, please provide your request as a comment on this video. If you appreciate our effort, please like this video. It will definitely motivate us. At the end, thank you. Please take care and stay safe.